Good morning, dear friends. I hope everyone can hear clearly enough. I began the practice of mindfulness at the age of 16. I was ordained as a novice monk at the age of 16. And the first book, text of mindfulness contains a number of verses. Each verse has 4 lines, and each line has 5 words. It was written in classical Chinese. When I wake up in the morning, I am supposed to read the first verse, the first line of a verse, and then breathe. And when I breathe in, I read the first line silently inside. And then when I breathe out, I read the second line. And then one in breath for the third line, and one in breath for the fourth line. That is a verse that helped me to be mindful when I wake up. And the gatha, the first verse, it goes like this. Waking up in the morning, I smile. The first thing you do in the morning is to smile. Waking up in the morning, I smile. And you breathe in and you smile. And then when you breathe out, you read the second line. I have 24 brand new hours to live. So that is a gift of life. 24 hours, 24 brand new hours to live. That's a lot. And then when I breathe in again, I read the third line. I vow to live these 24 hours deeply, each hour deeply. I will not waste them. I don't allow anger and fear and jealousy to prevent me to live deeply these 24 hours given to me. And the last line is, and I learn, and I make the vow to learn to look at people around me with the eyes of compassion. And that is the first verse. And the novice has to memorize all these verses in order to practice mindfulness. Waking up in the morning, I smile. I have 24 brand new hours to live. I vow to live them deeply and learn to look at people around me with the eyes of compassion. So there is no thinking, just breathing and remembering to live in such a way that will not waste your life. And when you brush your teeth, there is one verse for you to brush your teeth. So that while you're brushing your teeth, you can be happy, you can be mindful, you appreciate the water, you appreciate the time you have in order to brush your teeth. When you put on your robe, there is one verse for you to practice. And when you sit down, there is a verse for you to sit down. For a novice, before he sit down, he breathes and read a verse. You don't see, you don't hear anything, but a novice is supposed to practice mindfulness breathing while sitting down. And it goes like this. Sitting down here is like sitting at the foot of the Bodhi tree and wake up like a Buddha. And I am sitting down and allowed myself to be free, not to be bound by afflictions like anger and fear. I sit down like as a free person. So there are about 50 verses like that for a novice to learn by heart, so that he or she can practice mindfulness throughout the day and enjoy every moment of his daily life. And we have translated these verses into English, French, and so on. And you might like to use them in order to practice mindfulness or breathing, so that you improve the quality of your daily life. And we have invented new verses, like riding a bicycle, because the text is very ancient. There's no verse for riding the bicycle. So I invented a verse to ride the bicycle. And you may be, it may be interesting for you to know that I am one of the first Buddhist monks in Vietnam to ride on a bicycle. That's very modern. Very modern. Now people drive a car, use scooter, but at that time for a monk to ride on a bicycle is something very new. Very. And now we have also a verse for you to use when you are about to make a phone call, called telephone meditation. You are holding the phone, and you want to call him or her. So you breathe in with one line, and breathe out with the second line, and breathe in with the third line, and breathe out with the fourth line. And you are calm after that, and the quality of the talk will be better. Words can travel thousands of kilometers. They can build more understanding and love. I vow that what I'm going to say will promote mutual understanding and love. And every word I say will be beautiful like flowers or embroideries. So before you compose the number, you hold the telephone and you enjoy breathing in and out 2 times and reading that, and you are fresh enough to make the telephone call. And when you hear the sound on at the end of the line, you know that the other person is not answering you right away because she is practicing breathing also. Yes, in Plum Village, when you hear the telephone, you are not supposed to answer right away. The sound of the telephone is considered to be a bell mindfulness. Because if you don't practice, the sound of the telephone might disturb you a little bit. Who is calling? Good news or bad news? But if you are a practitioner of telephone meditation, and then you stay where you are, and you listen to the sound of the telephone, and you breathe in and out and calm yourself. So next time when you call Plum Village, and if you don't get an answer right away, you know that they are breathing in and out. And if you know that they are breathing in and out, you tell yourself, they are breathing in and out, why not me? So you don't wait, you just enjoy breathing in and breathing out again until the other person answers the phone. That's called a telephone meditation. There is a lay Dharma teacher in India. Shantum. And his mother was the president of the Supreme Court. And when we visited her, we talked about telephone meditation, and she found it very helpful. So she used the practice of telephone meditation. Imagine in the city of Barcelona, everyone is practicing telephone meditation. There will be much more peace and happiness and mutual understanding and love, because we have the time to refresh ourselves, to improve the quality of our talking. By talking, we can promote more understanding and love, and so on. In the Plum Village chanting book, you can find a few dozens of verses like that. And if you want, you can memorize them and enjoy practicing them in your daily life. Sitting down, begin to walk. There is one for you to wash your dishes, because it may be pleasant to do the dishes. You can enjoy washing the dishes, breathing and using agata. Everything done in mindfulness can bring you joy and happiness, including starting your car. There is one for you to start your car. And of course, when an unpleasant feeling is coming up, you have a gata in order to practice, in order to take care of the painful feeling is going up. And these verses are very, very helpful for the life of a practitioner. Mindfulness, the practice of mindfulness can be very concrete. And there are 5 areas of practicing mindfulness. And the first is to protect life, protecting life. Because life is so precious. You have to protect your own life, protect yourself, protect the life of people you love, and protect the lives of other living beings, including animals, plants, and minerals. And to protect the planet Earth. And that is the first mindfulness training. Reverence for life, protecting life. There are many young people who kill themselves every day because they don't know how to handle a strong emotion. And the practice of mindfulness can help them not to destroy themselves like that. And I think if school teachers and parents know the practice, they can transmit it to the young people. In countries like Japan, every year about 30,000 people commit suicide. 30,000, that is a lot. In Hong Kong, in United Kingdom, in America, everywhere young people are killing themselves because they don't know how to handle a strong emotion. And the practice of mindful breathing, mindful walking can help us to handle a strong emotion. And we should know how to do it and tell the young people how to do it. We help save their life. When a strong emotion is coming, we know it is coming. We are aware that it's coming. So we stop doing things and we stop thinking. Because if we continue to think, the emotion becomes stronger and stronger. And we go back to the practice of mindful breathing right away. Whether you are in a sitting position or you are in a lying position, you practice mindful deep breathing. Bring your mind down to the level of the stomach, and focus your attention on the rising and falling of the stomach. Breathing in, I know it's rising. Breathing out, I know it's falling. If you are in a lying position, you may like to put your hand on your stomach, and you breathe in, you feel that your stomach is rising. Breathing out, you will feel the stomach is falling. And try to breathe as deeply as possible and focus your attention only on the rising and falling of the stomach. And you maintain that kind of this insight that a strong emotion is something that comes, stay for a while, and go. It's impermanent. And you are much more than an emotion. And emotion is just a tiny thing. But you are much more than an emotion. You are made of body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, consciousness. The territory of your being is large, and an emotion is just a little bit of you. And why do you have to die because of one emotion? An emotion is like a storm, and if you know how to handle a storm, you will survive very well. So that kind of insight should be maintained alive during the time you handle the emotion. The practice is easy enough. Stop the thinking. Bring your attention down to the level of the navel. and practice breathing in and out and become aware of the rise and fall of your abdomen and maintain that inside alive. And emotion is just one emotion. I don't have to die because just because of one emotion. It comes and it will go away. And if you focus your attention only on the in breath and out breath, the rising and falling of your abdomen, you are safe. Mindfulness is protecting you. There's no thinking. There's only the breathing and the calming. And 5 minutes later, 8, it will go away and you can survive the emotion. And the next time when the emotion comes, you are no longer afraid. I know how to handle it. I'm not afraid. But we should not wait until a strong emotion comes in order to begin the practice, because naturally we will forget to practice. And we allow ourselves to be carried away by the strong emotion. We have to practice mindful breathing every day. The practice of deep breathing, belly breathing, abdomen breathing, a few minutes a day. And in a few weeks, it becomes a habit. And when a strong emotion, a painful feeling comes, we will remember to practice. And we will be able to survive the emotion very well. Your little boy, your little girl may got into a crisis with a strong emotion. You might like to hold his hand and say, darling, breathe in with mommy. Don't you see that when we breathe in, our stomach is rising? And when we are breathing out, our stomach is falling? So you do the guided meditation for the child. And as you have the energy of mindfulness, you transmit to the little boy or the little girl. And you train your little boy or little girl to breathe in and out and to take care of the strong emotion. And this is possible. Later on, the boy and the girl can do it by himself. And as school teachers, we may like to do that for our students who are in trouble, who are being carried away by strong emotion. And we can also ask other children, other students to help. Suppose in the class there is a boy who is in crisis. It does not seem that we can calm him down. So we ask the whole class to practice in order to support the man, the boy. And you can prepare so that you and your students can practice mindful breathing, generating that energy, collective energy of mindfulness and peace, and help the boy that is in crisis. And he's aware of the love, the compassion of the whole group, the whole class, and he goes sufferless. So parents and teachers should master the practice and transmit the practice of deep abdomen breathing to the young people. It's very important. That is something that should be taught in school. The second realm of the practice is the realm of true happiness. practicing true happiness. I think a discussion on true happiness should be taken up as an topic, because so many people believe that happiness is made of fame, power, money, and sensual pleasure. And we know that there are many people who have plenty of these things. They suffer very deeply, and many of them commit suicide also. So we should try to help the young people to see that true happiness is made of understanding and love. In fact, love is born from understanding. If you do not understand someone, you cannot love him or her and make him or her happy. So it might be helpful to ask the other person, darling, do you think that I understand you? Do you think that I have understood you enough? If not, please help me. And we know that understanding ourselves will help to understand the other person. We need to understand our own suffering, our own difficulties, before we can understand the suffering and the difficulty of the other person. When you feel understood, you feel loved. So what you can offer to the person you love is understanding. And understanding that is something that can grow every day. In true love, understanding is growing every day. And you have to feed your love with understanding. You have to try to understand the other person, especially the difficulties, the suffering in him or in her. And if you need it, you can ask that person to help. A father may be motivated by making his son happy. But if the father does not understand the suffering and the difficulties of the son, the more he tries, the more he makes his son suffer. Because understanding is very important. That is why father should ask son, my son, do you think I understand your problem? I understand your difficulties? And the son, in order to be able to love his father, should do the same. Father, do you think that I understand you? Your suffering, your difficulties, please tell me. So understanding is a practice. And last night we have talked about the practice of deep listening and loving speech that can help us to understand the suffering and to restore communication. So to love means to understand. Understanding is the other word for love. If you don't love someone, you cannot. If you If you don't understand someone, you cannot love him or her. Cultivating understanding and creating love and compassion, that is the true elements of happiness. A person without understanding and love cannot be a happy person. With plenty of understanding and love, even if you don't have a lot of money, fame, profit, you are a happy person anyway. And that is why mindfulness is a kind of practice that can help us to understand what is true happiness. True happiness is not made with the objects of cravings like fame, power, wealth, and sensual pleasures, but with understanding and compassion. The kingdom of God is a place where there is a lot of understanding and love. And we can contribute into generating more understanding and love and make the place a real kingdom for all of us. The third area of practice, mindfulness, is the practice of true love. We learn that sexual desire is not love. People mix up between the two, love and sexual desire. Sexual desires very often destroy love and create a lot of suffering. And the young people, they don't know, most of them don't know what is true love. So as school teachers, as parents, we have to help them. And girls and boys in high school, they suffer a lot because they don't know what is true love. And they are losing the most precious thing within themselves, and they continue to suffer for all their life because they don't know exactly what is true love. A boy asked his girlfriend, to send him a picture of her nude. And the girl did not want to do it. But she's afraid that the boy will abandon her. So she had to send him her picture, taken by her own telephone. And the boy showed that picture to his friends. And small things like that happen everywhere and make the young people suffer very deeply. And that is what's going on with the younger generation. They don't know exactly what is true love. And that is why teaching true love to the young people is very important. Telling them that sexual desire is not love, and tell them that true love is made of compassion, loving kindness, joy, and non-discrimination. Maitri is the Sanskrit word for loving kindness. It's very much like a friendship. Maitri is the first element of true love. That is friendship, brotherhood, sisterhood. It has the power to offer happiness. You can generate joy and happiness. You can help generate a feeling of joy and happiness in him or in her. And that is Maitri. True love should offer happiness. Not the intention to offer happiness. Because you may have a lot of intention to make someone happy, but the way you do it make him or her suffer. So it's not the intention to love, but the capacity to make someone happy. If you practice mindful breathing, mindful walking, and restore your freshness, your beauty, your calm, and you can offer these elements to him or to her, that is Maitri. You are so pleasant, you are so fresh, so pleasant to be with. You can generate joy, happiness, and peace, and you can help him or her to generate joy, happiness, and peace. That is Maitri. That is true love. And that is a practice. That is possible as a practice. And the young people can do it. The second element of true love is karuna, which is a compassion. Karuna is the capacity to help someone to suffer less, to remove the suffering in him or in her, to transform the suffering in him or in her. And we know that the practice of compassionate listening can make a person suffer less. You understand the suffering in him or in her. You help him or her to empty his heart and suffer less. And if you know how to help a person suffer less, you have the element of karuna in your love. And true love should have karuna, the capacity to help someone to suffer less. With the energy of mindfulness and compassion in you, you can do a lot of things. You can help a person to suffer less just by sitting close to him or her, or just saying something full of compassion and understanding. Just show her the way to restore joy and happiness. Many things we can do in order to help a person to suffer less. And the third is mudita. Which is joy. If in loving someone you make him or her suffer and cry every day, that's not true love. True love should offer joy. And joy is a mark of true love. True love should generate joy for yourself and for him or for her. If you make him or her cry and suffer, that's not true love. And the joy is for both. And the fourth element of true love is upeksha. Upeksha is non-discrimination, inclusiveness. Equanimity. In true love, there is no longer any frontier between you and her and him. Your suffering is his suffering. Her happiness is your happiness. You cannot say, darling, that's your problem. No. Your problem is my problem, darling. So, in true love, there is no longer discrimination between the lover and the beloved. Your happiness is her happiness. Your suffering is his suffering. No discrimination. You include everyone. You include each other. And if it is true love, it continues to grow every day. The moment when love stops growing, it begins to die. We have witnessed the death of love several times. Love turning into hate and anger because we don't know how to feed our love. The Buddha said that nothing can survive without food. Our depression also, if our depression continues because we keep feeding our depression. And if we know how to stop feeding our depression will have to die, go away. The same thing is true with our love. If we do not know how to feed our love daily, they will stop growing. They will die slowly. And that is why to practice in order to help our love to grow every day is to guarantee happiness, continued happiness. With the practice upeksha, inclusiveness, your love continues to grow every day. It begins with two persons. But as you are happy in that true love, your love very soon includes a third person, a fourth person. And you don't discriminate anymore. You don't love a person just because that person is the same countryman, not because that person follow the same religious belief. There is no discrimination whatsoever in true love. And everyone will be included in your love. Your love continue to grow and embrace everyone, not only humans, but also animals, plants, and minerals. That is the love of a great being, including in everything that is upeksha. So the practice of true love has to be taught in school. And school teachers should embody true love. The fourth area of the practice is the practice of love in speech and deep listening. This is the fourth mindfulness training. And yesterday we spoke a little bit about that practice already. If we know how to use a love in speech, if we can talk lovingly and compassionately to another person, that person will open her heart and tell us about the suffering, the difficulties that she has. And if you know how to listen with compassion, and then you can restore communication and bring about reconciliation. In the case of school teachers, this practice should be done with people in the family first. And when we have succeeded with members of our family, we can bring the practice to school. If we have difficulties with our colleagues, and then we can restore communication and reconcile. And finally, we can bring that into our school. Without this practice, teachers can make students suffer, and students can make teachers suffer. There's a gap between the two generations. We can imagine that teachers and students sitting together and talking to each other about the suffering they have gone through. And teachers have to be able to tell the student that I know you have suffered. I know you may have difficulties in your family and so on. And if you don't make much progress in your studies, that's due to these difficulties. So please tell me, please tell us. And the whole class can sit and listen with compassion. That will transform a student. because other students may have the same kind of suffering. It would be lovely if school teachers can sit down and listen to the suffering of their own students. We should have the time to do it. Last week in a retreat at Madrid, during a session of question and answer, a boy of 11 came up and asked his question. He suffered, he began to find difficulty in sleeping, and he blamed everything on his mother. I believe that all mothers want their son and their daughters to be happy, and they have a plan, they have ideas as how their sons and their daughters can be happy, and they just deliver that kind of message. The boy suffers even when her mother say good night. Why do you suffer when your mother say good night? Because your mother may mean by good night that don't stay up late, don't play electronic games. There is a blaming in that kind of things. And relationship between mother and son has become difficult. So he came up and in front of 600 people, he asked that question. Dear Thầy, I start having difficulties in sleeping, and my mother always like that, imposing things on me and so on. And the mother believed that she is acting out of love. She is prescribing the right thing for her son to do, like a teacher. But the way she does it did not work, because she does not feel good in herself. So I answer the boy, you know that mothers, they have their own difficulties and suffering. You believe that you are the only one who suffers, but you don't know that your mother has difficulties and suffering also, and you have not had the time to think about the difficulties and the suffering of your mother. You have not helped your mother to suffer less. In fact, you have reacted in such a way that make your mother suffer more. Please think about her suffering and not just your suffering. And you should go and ask your mother what kind of suffering she is undergoing, what kind of difficulties she has in herself. Maybe she does not know how to handle the suffering in her. That is why the way she tell you what to do and not what to do make you irritated. And why I was giving the answer to the young man, many mothers down there were crying. Because we mothers, we also have our own suffering. And our sons and our daughters do not know that we suffer. They just blame us. So your students, they suffer. They have difficulties with their mothers, their fathers, and so on. And talking to them, showing them the practice can help them to suffer less. And you can do better. Because these young people, when they have overcome the difficulties, when they have understood the suffering of their parents, they go back and help their parents. We have organized retreats of mindfulness for young people. In Europe, in America, Asia. And many young people get transformation and healing during the retreat and went home and helped their parents. And they were able to restore communication with their parents. And many of them are able to invite their parents to join a retreat. So school teachers can do the same. We can help a student to suffer less, to understand, to suffer less. And that student can go home and help their parents to suffer less also. This has been possible with the practice of mindfulness. A retreat of mindfulness usually lasts 6 days. Our retreat has only 2 days and a half. And during the first 3-4 days, we learn how to water the seed of understanding and compassion in us. We learn how to calm down our emotions and feelings. We try to touch the wonders of life, refreshing and healing, to heal ourselves. And that is why on the 5th day, we can put into practice the teaching of deep listening and loving speech. And the miracle of reconciliation always takes place in our retreat. If the other person is in the retreat, that would be easy, because she or he has been exposed to the teaching and the practice. And the seeds of understanding and compassion have been watered by the Dhamma talks, by the practice of mindful breathing and looking deeply. But if the other person is not in the retreat, then you can use your portable telephone to practice. And usually we encourage the people to do it before the end of the retreat. And they had until midnight of the 5th day in order to do it. And many people have used telephone, and it works very well. Many people report on the last day of the retreat that night before they have telephone to their parents, their partner, using the techniques of compassionate listening and loving speech, restore communication and reconcile. So the miracle of reconciliation always takes place in our retreat. And this can be done in the classroom. I believe that we have, as a school teachers, we have to tell our students of our difficulties and our suffering. School teachers do suffer, and we have the right to tell our students about that. We can begin our class by saying that in order to improve the quality of the teaching and the learning, in order for the teacher to enjoy teaching and the students to enjoy learning, we have to do something. Otherwise, both sides will suffer. So would you agree that we do something in order for school teachers to enjoy the teaching and students to enjoy the learning? Because the suffering in us prevents us from doing so. So I should tell you my suffering, my difficulties. And you should also tell me your difficulties, your suffering. We should understand each other. And after we have a mutual understanding, we don't blame each other anymore. We don't make it difficult for each other anymore. And we can go more easily and quickly on the path of teaching and learning. There are many things that we can do in the classroom in order to help students to suffer less. Like school teachers leading a session of total deep relaxation. Because the young people, they have tension in their body, in their feelings also. And a good student can also learn how to lead a session of total relaxation for the whole class. Lying on the grass, and so on. If you notice that a boy or a girl suffers in a class, she seems to be very upset. Her mind is not there. How can she learn? So we can address her and ask her what is wrong. And she may say that my mother was hospitalized this morning, and I don't know if she can survive or not. And with that kind of feeling, how can she learn? And you cannot impose your will on her. So the teacher can address the whole class and say that we have a student whose mother is hospitalized and she worried much about that. Shall we, the whole class, practice breathing together mindfully, and we will send this energy of mindfulness and compassion to her mother. And using that kind of collective energy of mindfulness generated by the breathing done by teachers and other students, you can help calm down that student, and she may be able to follow the class. And there are things like that we school teachers can do. And there are difficult elements in the class. And if you look deeply, you will see why that little boy, that young man, that young woman behave in that way. So if we have enough compassion to inquire, we find out, and the whole class may come and help. So listening to each other and understand the suffering of each other, we can calm down the feelings, the emotions. We can promote mutual understanding. And we don't make each other suffer anymore. We make it easier for everyone in the task of teaching and learning. Henry, who was a professor of mathematics in the French school of Toronto, after having spent 3 weeks in Plum Village, he went back to his school and practiced mindfulness with his students. He walks slowly and mindfully into the class, and he began to erase what on the blackboard mindfully. And they say, "Dear teacher, are you sick?" I said, no, I am not sick. I just practice mindful walking, mindful wiping out the things on that. I enjoy that. I feel a lot of peace. I am much relaxed because I have learned mindfulness. And would you like me to tell you about what I do in Plum Village? And they listen. And then they agree that every 15 minutes, a boy will clap his hand because they did not have a bell of mindfulness. And everyone, including the teachers, practice mindful breathing and relax. Stop the thinking. And that helped very much in the learning. In the beginning, it was like a play. But finally, it works very well. Transformation and healing took place, and the class make a lot of progress. And other classes, they follow the example. And when he came to the age of retirement, the administration asked him to stay on for a few more years. He was able to bring the practice of mindfulness into school and improve the quality of learning and teaching in school. So the practice of loving speech and deep listening should create an atmosphere of mutual understanding in class. And the student will not make it difficult for teachers. And the quality of teaching and learning will be improved. And mindfulness can be practiced in the realm of mindful consumption. Our society is a society of consumption. We believe that happiness is to have enough money to buy whatever you want to buy. That is an idea about happiness. But we already know that true happiness is made of understanding and love. And you cannot buy understanding and love in the supermarket. You have to generate these two things by the practice. And this again should be taught in school. The first the kind of, in the Buddhist tradition, we speak about the 4 kinds of nutriments, 4 kinds of food. four kinds of consumption. And first of all, it is edible food. And that is the kind of food that you consume by the way of the mouth. And your health depends very much on what you eat. And we should eat in such a way that can preserve compassion in our heart and help living beings to suffer less and help protect our planet. The consumption of meat and alcohol has destroyed much of our environment and our health. We have learned that eating meat is more polluting than driving a car. The meat industry and the alcohol industry has caused a lot of damage to our environment. And we learned that the amount of grain used to make alcohol and feed the livestock is huge. And tens of thousands of people die every day because of the lack of food. And the Buddha told the story of a young couple who tried to flee from the country, to take refuge in another country. They brought their little boy with them. They had to cross a desert in order to go to the other country to take political asylum. But they did not calculate well. Halfway through the desert, they ran out of food. And they knew that they are going to die, 3 of them. So finally, they made a terrible decision to kill the little boy and eat the flesh to survive, hoping to get out of the desert. So after having killing the boy, they ate one moss piece of that flesh and preserved the rest on the shoulder to dry. And every time after having eaten a piece of that flesh, they ask, "Where is now our beloved little boy?" And they pull their hair, they beat their chest. They suffer quite a lot. But finally they got out of the desert and were accepted as refugees. The Buddha must have heard the story directly from that couple. He told the people listening to him, "Dear friends, do you think that the couple enjoy eating the flesh of their little boy?" And they say, "No, dear teacher, it's impossible for you to enjoy eating the flesh of your own boy." The Buddha then said that in that case, my friends, let us consume, let us eat in such a way that you will not eat the flesh of our sons and daughters. The 40,000 children who die every day because of the lack of food and nutrition, who are they? They are our sons and our daughters. And the amount of grain that is used to make alcohol and meat should have been used in order to save the life of these children. So to practice eating and drinking mindfully, we can preserve our compassion, protect life. If there is no compassion in our heart, we cannot be a happy person. And this our students can understand. And we learn that if we can reduce the eating of meat and drinking of alcohol in developed countries, we can already transform the situation of the earth. So to stop eating meat, to stop drinking alcohol, or to reduce it significantly, we can save our planet, we can save life, we can preserve our compassion. That is the first source of nutriment, edible food. The second source of nutriment is sensorial impressions. You consume not with your mouth, but with your eyes, ear, nose, body, mind. When you read a newspaper you consume. When you watch television, you consume. When you listen to a conversation or to music, you consume. And what you consume in every day might contain a lot of poisons and toxins that is not good for your health. Our children, they consume television several hours a day. Many boys and girls spend 5 hours or more with electronic games. And there's a lot of violence and craving and fear and anger in what they consume. So consuming that amount of toxins and poison will not be good for our physical health and mental health. Even psychotherapists, they are supposed to help patients, but they spend a lot of time listening to stories of suffering. A lot of despair and hate and sorrow. If psychotherapists don't know how to practice generating joy, happiness, compassion, she will lose the balance and she will get sick. So we should know our limits so that we can continue for a long time in our efforts to help others. A conversation can be highly toxic also. What the other person tell you may be full of anger, despair, violence. And during the 1 hour listening to him or to her, you consume. That is not healthy for you. So the young people, they are consuming a lot of poisons and toxins, including violence and fear and despair and anger. And that is why in the family and in the classroom we have to discuss about the practice of the 5th mindfulness training, mindful consumption. mindful consumption is the way out. To assure physical health and mental health, you have to practice mindfulness of consumption. When you watch a film, they stop the film from time to time for advertisement, and you consume advertisement. They want you to buy. And that touch the seed of craving in you. You don't need to buy, but they urge you to buy. And they think that if you don't buy it, you don't have happiness. They make you to believe that happiness is possible when you have the money to buy things. But that is not a right view about happiness. True happiness is made of understanding and love. So our students, our children have to learn about true happiness. And we should sit down as a family, as a classroom to discuss about right mindful consumption. There are articles in the magazines, in the newspaper that are full of anger, fear, violence. And journalists don't report enough about the healthy things like this retreat. It's not sensational, the breathing in and out and walking peacefully. And the stories they cover and the stories that we read always contains a lot of anger, despair, violence, and so on. That day was the day to commemorate the death of Mahatma Gandhi. I was in New Delhi, and the newspaper, the Times of India, invited me to be guest editor of that day, edition of Peace edition. So we brought a number of monastics to come to the headquarters of the Times of India and prepare the edition, Peace edition. That morning, bad news came. There was a bombing of a city, in a city nearby. And we and other editors of the Times of India were sitting around a big table, and they asked, "Dear Thầy, what journalists should do on a morning like this? Terrorist attacks, bombing." So I advise everyone to practice mindful breathing and calm down. You should not say something right away. We have to say it in calm, with insight. So after a few minutes of mindful breathing, I said, of course we have to report the news, but we have to report in such a way that will not water the seed of anger and fear and violence. That would be destructive. We report about the truth, but help people to understand why people do things like this. They are victims of misunderstanding. They are motivated by anger and fear and the desire to punish. And they don't see that people do not need punishment. They need help. So we should report. But there is a way of reporting that can water the seed of understanding and compassion in the heart of the readers. So in that day, we try to write reports on the terrorist attack in such a way that help people to know why people have done such a thing to their own countrymen. And when you read it, you can see the water of understanding and compassion in you water. So if we consume without mindfulness, we get a lot of toxins and poisons, and we get sick. Our family will get sick, our city will get sick, our country will get sick, and we can easily involve ourselves into a war. The third kind of nutriment is volition. It means our aspiration, our deepest desire. Each one of us want to do something with our life. And each one of us should have the time to sit down and ask ourselves, what do I want to do with my life? What is my deepest aspiration? Because there are those who think that the deepest desire is to have a lot of money, to be number one in business, to have a lot of power and fame and sex, sensual pleasure. But running after these objects of craving can bring destruction to our body and mind. So that is not my deepest aspiration. Now, terrorists, what they want to do most is to punish. And they may believe that they do so in the name of justice of God. But it's motivated by the desire to punish, to destroy. And that is not good food. When you are motivated by anger, by the desire to punish, your nutriment is not healthy. But if you are motivated by the desire to help the young people to suffer less, that is good nutriment. If your desire is to change the world in a better direction, that is good food. If your desire is to help people to suffer less, to know how to practice true love, to promote mutual understanding and reconciliation, that is good food. And when you have that block of energy in you, you are strong enough to overcome whatever obstacles on your path. So the fourth kind of nutriment is nghe không có rõ. The fourth kind of nutriment is a source of energy, and we have to find it out. If our deepest desire is to protect the environment, to protect the Mother Earth, that is a good desire, that is a good food. You have a good motivation, and you want, what you want to do with your life is the fourth nutriment volition. And we have to help the young people to have a good aspiration, finding the meaning of life, making their life meaningful, giving them a lot of energy so that they have something to do, meaningful to do with their life. And if school teachers have that source of energy in themselves, they can transmit to their students. I am also a teacher, and every day I transmit to my students, monastic and lay people, that kind of energy. And my students have a very simple life, especially the monastics. No one of them have a individual bank account. No one of them have a salary. No one of them have a private home, private car. And yet, they are happy people. They spend time building brotherhood, sisterhood, community of practice. They have organized retreats to help people suffer less. And we operate not as individuals, but as a community. Joy, happiness, compassion are possible with simple life, provided that you have a source of inspiration, aspiration. That is the fourth nutriment, the ideal to serve and to help people suffer less. So teachers should, first of all, have that kind of aspiration, and then they can transmit to their students the same kind of energy. And when the students have that kind of energy, they suffer less. They know where to go, in what direction to go, and not to destroy their body and mind, looking for sensual pleasures and so on. And the last source of nutriment is consciousness. We consume our own consciousness. And there are good things in our consciousness to consume. In our consciousness, there is hell. There is also paradise, the kingdom of God. In Buddhism, we speak about consciousness in terms of seeds. There is a seed of love. There is a seed of compassion. There is a seed of joy. There is a seed of happiness. A seed of brotherhood, sisterhood, forgiveness. Many good things in our consciousness. And if we know how to water the seeds in every day, they will grow. And the paradise, the kingdom of God, will be for us to consume. When you listen to a talk like this, when you have a discussion about compassion, how to help the people to suffer less. You water the good seeds in you. It means that paradise, the kingdom of God, is in you. You help it to manifest for yourself and for your beloved one. But there is also hell inside. Suffering, the suffering transmitted to us by our parents and ancestors. Suffering that have not been understood, that have not been transformed, and that has been transmitted to you, to us. And if we know the practice, we can transform them. Otherwise, they are always there in our consciousness. The suffering of our ancestors are still there in us. We continue to suffer the suffering of our ancestors. Their frustration, their anger, their fear are still in us. And also during our childhood, we may have suffered. We may have been abused with violence. And many of us tend to go back to that dark corner in our consciousness and to experience again and again the suffering of the past. We know that life in the present moment is wonderful. The blue sky, the beautiful trees, flowers, children. But we are not capable of being established in the present moment because we had a painful past. And many of us are drawn back to that dark corner of the past and watch again and again the projection of the films of the past in order to experience again and again the suffering of the past. That is a kind of prison. And if the other person, if your partner used to do that, you have to help him or her to get out. Darling, life is beautiful out here in the present moment. Why do you go back always to that dark place? That is only the past. The past is already gone. And with mindfulness, with joy, you can help bring him or her out of that dark corner of consciousness. Because there is paradise, there is a kingdom of God in the present moment for you to enjoy. Why do you have to go back to the past and that corner? And of course, psychotherapists are trying to help us to do the same. But if psychotherapists can do it by themselves, and then they can help the patients to do the same. And then there is the collective consciousness as food. We know that there are very angry groups of people. Full of despair and violence and anger. There are neighborhoods like that, where children are born and grow, and everyone in that neighborhood is generating hate, anger, fear, despair, and violence every day. And as you are born and grow in that, you consume every day. And you cannot be a happy person if you consume that collective energy of hate, anger, violence. And if you happen to live in that neighborhood, you should wake up and know that this is not a healthy environment. You have to pull out as soon as possible. and look for a healthier environment to heal yourself and help heal your children. Because you don't want to consume that collective energy of anger and hate. And after having practiced and heal ourselves, we can come back as a community to help, but not before. I think as a minister of environment, a minister of education, taking care of urbanism, we have to meditate on this matter. How to transform this violent neighborhood full of fear and anger. What kind of practice that can help heal? This is a very important issue. And to create a community where there is brotherhood, sisterhood, and joy is to create a healthy environment. That is the most wonderful thing. And if you put yourself into that atmosphere, if your children have the opportunity to live in such a healthy atmosphere, they grow up as happy people. So community building is very important. And belonging to a group of people, we try to practice in such a way that show the people how to consume. They should not allow ourselves to consume the collective energy of anger. That is not good for our health, for the health of our nation. We should have compassion and understanding that will heal us and help heal the people whom we think to be our enemies. And we know that if we have enough peace and joy and compassion, we can serve many people, and we don't need to think of divorce, separation anymore. We don't need of establishing a separate country anymore, because there is enough understanding, compassion, and happiness. If we are thinking of divorcing, separating, setting up a separate nation, it is because we do not have enough compassion, understanding, brotherhood, sisterhood, joy, and happiness. And with the practice of mindfulness, we will have enough of these things, and we don't have to think about other things. So the 5 mindfulness trainings are the very concrete expression of the practice of mindfulness. And if we ourselves and the young people live according to the 5 practice of mindfulness, and then happiness is possible, compassion is possible, healing is possible. And a school teacher should embody that kind of mindful living, that kind of compassion and understanding, and they will help the young generation tremendously in the transformation and healing. We'll continue tomorrow.